Assalamu alaikum, welcome to Debate IR program. Your host Tariq Khan. Today we'll analyze and explore China's contemporary developments, ambitions and position on international arena. It is honor for me to introduce Professor Dr. Claudia Astarita. You are Senior Research Fellow and International Relations Analyst for South Asia at Center for Military and Strategic Studies, Rome, France. Dr. Claudia, thank you so much for joining and you are most welcome in program.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Ma'am, how would you describe the rise of contemporary China's development and shaping multilateral actions on global challenges? And what is the thing that brings China as a comprehensive international force in achieving global economic development? What is your analysis?
Well, I think first of all that we should recognize that the rise of contemporary China is astonishing, and China is always able to let's say to go beyond, to show better the results than any prediction. So I think from this, and this is not new because China has kept, if you want, this habit for many decades. At the same time, I think that more and more, and especially contemporary China, is able to have an impact, and a very clear one, and sometimes a very deep and wide one, in shaping multilateral action, especially at the time of global challenges. And I think the best examples to see how much China is impacting on what is happening outside the Chinese border is showing what China has been doing with in dealing with the COVID-19 global pandemic, and also in China's commitment, if you allow me to use this expression, to achieve and to be able to deliver a very high quality 5G standards all over the world. At the same time, we need to consider that the more China is engaged in global dynamics and the more China is trying to take an active role in dealing with global challenges, the more China has to confront itself with the strategies, the perspective and the reaction of other countries. And from this perspective, I think China has still a lot to learn, and especially in terms of immediate reaction. Once again, I think the examples of COVID-19 is quite clear, because China's dream of providing immunization to the rest of the world has been, to a certain extent, limited by the Russian success in this challenge, and also the very the continuing trade war between the United States and China that is definitely focused on high tech is showing that China doesn't really have a free hand to impose its own standards all over the world. So we will continue to see, I would say, a rising China that will be more and more confronted by other countries. What we need to look at is how China, and how fast China will be learning on how to respond to these countries efficiently.
Ma'am, how China is reshaping the world order in this age of globalization, and how the world has so far reacted to the presence of this new rising power in the global system. What is your analysis?
I think that China is, now is becoming once again more and more active in taking advantage of its emerging position, of its position as an emerging power on a global scale. At the same time, China is using, if you want, nowadays the same strategies with everyone. So China is proposing economic cooperation first, then China can follow up with strategic cooperation. China can offer its own support during a time of emergency, or China can offer its own support during normal time. What really changes, however, is the way in which the countries that China is trying to approach react to what China is offering to them. And we can continue to see that the United States, Western European country, Australia, remains extremely reluctant to engage China deeply, or they are trying to balance their relationship in order to maintain the control over it. However, there are other regions in which China is more and more welcome. For example, in Eastern Europe and in the Middle East, China is more and more often raising the interests of these countries, of its interlocutors, and we have seen relationship becoming deeper and deeper. There remains, if you want, mixed feelings about China's real intentions in Southeast Asia and in South Asia, where countries need to keep a door open to China, but at the same time they continue to be looking forward, maintaining a strong relationship with other partners that could counterbalance China's position or China penetration in their country. And then more and more, I would say, in Africa and in Latin America, China is welcome, as not necessarily because there is a rise in, let's say, the way it is, there has been an improvement in the way in which these countries look at China, but more and more because China appears as the only alternative they have. Once again, I would like to raise the example of the 5G. So as long as China is able to offer the cheapest 5G network, and China remains the only country that can do that without a realistic alternative in the West, then I believe that several Southeast Asian countries, African countries, Latin American countries will have to look at China if they decide to implement this kind of technology. It's just the presence of an alternative at the same condition that could, I would say, counterbalance China's penetration in these markets. But considering the circumstances, I would say it's more the condition that are making China more welcome in Africa, in Latin America, and to a certain extent in Southeast Asia and South Asia, rather than a real will to embrace China. And something similar is happening in Eastern Europe too, I would say.
Ma'am, if we talk about China's position in the world, then there is a high level of uncertainty and common perception that China intends to weaken liberal democratic principles and enhance or replace them with authoritarian governance principles. Do you think this controversial characteristic of China may have a threat to Western world? What is your analysis?
What you are saying is something that we tend to read more and more often in international media and in international discussion when they focus on China. So is China's real intention the one of weakening the liberal democratic principle, or is China really trying to replace the existing system with a more authoritarian one that is similar to China? Is China going to be a huge threat for the existing Western world? I think that the real problem here is that we don't know, because we don't know, and we are not able to understand which are the real intentions that China is pursuing or hiding. I remember the IR specialist Robert Cox in 2009. He published a very interesting commentary, and he described very well, and although it was only 2009, he described very well the feeling of seeing China rising. And I think his observation in 2009 remains very pertinent today. He was saying, first of all, he was making a comparison with the time in which the global leadership was in the hand of the United Kingdom, and when, after the Second World War, there was this passage from the United Kingdom to the United States. He made 2 points. First of all, he said that in this passage, the United Kingdom accepted that they were no more able to play a leading role at an international stage, and they also accepted to pass the leadership, the global leadership, to another country, the United States, with whom they were sharing the same values, the same or very similar values and attitude and visions. And in order to save their face, if you allow me to use this Asian expression, the United Kingdom also starts emphasizing the idea of maintaining a special relationship with the United States. As if in this, let's say, with this narrative, they could continue to perceive themselves and to be perceived as the global power number 2. And so still maintaining a privileged position in the leading of global dynamics. With China, everything is different. So the same variables will never happen again. Why? Because first of all, China doesn't share the same values, the same visions, and the same perspective than the United States. And at the same time, China is definitely not interested in maintaining, nor the United States are, of course, in maintaining or creating a sort of special relationship with the United States. And that's why China is worrying, because the perspective is that when China will, if China will be able to build for itself a stronger position in terms of global leadership, then we will have to adapt. And I think the key point here is the reluctance, especially from the United States, to accept this adaptation. However, at the same time, the only way we can achieve a more, let's say, a smoother transition is by admitting that China is an important power, that China counts on the international level, and that China represents an alternative system. So, but to what extent, I'm asking myself, the US will be available to accept this, interiorize this, and adapt as a consequence. I think this is very hard, and this is the challenge that China is posing, not necessarily its long-term intention, because it could be a cohabitation of major powers. It could be, hopefully not, an attempt to become the new international hegemon, but no matter the results, China will be challenging the existing value system, the existing understanding of the world, and we will have to take into consideration to accept China's new role in it. And this is very hard, especially for the United States or Western European countries.
Ma'am, what challenges, risks, incentives and opportunities do you see for China's ambitions towards global governance and reforms and developments? What is your analysis?
I think that the biggest challenge that we have in front of us is the one of recognizing first and accepting China's new role in the international arena. And this is the hardest step we have to do. At the same time, we have to do that because China has been able to create for itself a way more powerful and influencing position. So we cannot just accept or ask China to intervene at a time of a crisis and then be reluctant to recognize its power and its position on the global, in global dynamics. However, I think another challenge will be beyond, and this goes beyond the fact of recognizing China's contemporary power, accepting that China is an authoritarian country that is based on a very solid one-party system, and also that this is not going to change, especially not from a short-term or medium-term perspective. So we need to engage China by accepting to respect that China is an authoritarian country. And this, for me, is another very difficult challenge for, once again, for the United States, for Western European countries, but also for the rest of the world. However, I don't think that we will be able to face this challenge by renouncing to the dialogue. So an effort should be done to engage China in every possible conversation, in every arena in which we can pursue a dialogue. It's hard because creating a dialogue with China means talking with somebody that has a different opinion, a different perspective. So it won't be easy to find compromises. But to from my perspective, considering the disadvantage and the problems and the risk related to the possibility or a scenario in which China remains isolated, and also the opportunities that could come by seeing China more engaged in global dynamics from a political to an economic and social and strategic perspective, I think that a much better effort should be done to engage China, to talk to China, to understand how to accommodate China's position, but not because we are afraid of China, just because we need to accept, because that's the international scenario nowadays, that China counts in it and China had to be respected for that.
Ma'am, how do you view China-US relations under new administration of President Joe Biden, and what will be the Joe Biden approach towards China? What is your analysis?
Well, I think that facing Joe Biden election in the United States, we could have a moment, let's say a critical juncture, in which something could change in the way in which China and the US interact among each other. I think that the very harsh, strong way in which the Donald Trump administration approached China, to a certain extent, was positive, because this was the first time in which China felt under pressure. And China understood that a policy or a strategy that was too much oriented towards dialogue and appeasement before was no more the leading strategy vis-a-vis China of the United States. So showing China that they cannot always, let's say, escape or pretend that the negotiation will go in China's favor, will end in China's favor, was a very good step. However, now we cannot continue with the policy, or the US cannot continue with a policy that is based on confrontation. So what I hope is that now dialogue will be able to restart, but it will be a dialogue based on a completely different premise. That is, no more appeasement just to keep China quiet, but instead a real constructive dialogue in which China will remain aware that it cannot be the only country to win in a negotiation, and that a real compromise that benefits both parts in the same way needs to be achieved under any let's say, argument or topic that will be discussed between the two countries.
Dr. Claudia, how would you analyze China-Pakistan's relations, especially in the context of CPEC and Belt and Road Initiative project? How would you analyze?
Well, China wants to continue, I think, to implement, to try its best to make One Belt One Road become something real, something concrete. What is not very clear is, to me, is the way in which China is balancing today the relationship with India and with Pakistan. So, of course, we have noticed that for different reasons that the relationship between China and India is deteriorating again. However, Pakistan is, from what I have read recently, especially on the China-Pakistan economic corridor, is trying to impose its own conditions on China, which, in my opinion, could be a good thing, in a sense that China needs the cooperation of Pakistan, China needs the cooperation of many other countries. So, by taking advantage of this need, I think a country like Pakistan, or a country like Myanmar, because the same was happening with Myanmar, or Sri Lanka, they could re-equilibrate a little bit the relationship between China. And this could be a good way to, once again, relaunch the dialogue and avoid this perception of feeling just under China's dominance without the capacity of reacting, or without the capacity of really pursuing our own national interest. I mean, our own. I was trying to put myself in the shoes of Pakistan or Sri Lanka or Myanmar or other Southeast Asian countries.
Dr. Claudia, thank you so much for providing in-depth, valuable analysis on China's contemporary development, and once again, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to you for inviting me.